Hey guys, how's it going? So it's about 10 o'clock here, New Year's Eve. So 2 hours left of 2020. I don't have a life, so I've been down here in the shop. The process tonight was I actually got the rear brakes assembled. Drums won't go on, probably until it's on the car because they're pretty heavy and I've got to still press in some ball joints or U-joints. But yeah. This was one of the first things I started when I got the car, was redoing the back brakes, and I put them together all once, but I'd never been able to do the wheel bearings. The wheel hub's still not on there, but you need special tools to do the wheel bearings, and they're not cheap. But since I'm doing a chassis body off restoration now, pulled everything apart, new bearings. I'll have to press the other axle is just been painted. I'll probably touch up the brake drums, although it really doesn't matter that much. That's what they used to look like, so yeah. Well, that's a backing pad. But yeah, I couldn't clean that up because it was on the car and you have to pull the hub off with a crazy scary tool. So anyway, yeah, New Year's. So just thought I would do New Year's Eve. Thought I'd do a quick video. Brake hard lines are in. Those 2 points there is where the wheel fenders will go. They have to be bolted on after or tightened up after the, yeah, they have to be tightened up after the wheels are on the car, or the brakes on the car. So I put new brake line in. I think I've shown you guys this. It's copper nickel brake line. I had to make a couple pieces and shorten a few pieces. It's not perfect. There's like a pretty good whoa right there. And I put stainless steel hose clamps, hose hold down clamps everywhere. So there's really no movement at all of any significance. So up here we've got front suspension is all back together. On the car, it's still got to be tightened down. Obviously there's a little bit of water on or a little bit of rust on the brakes, but that'll come off as soon as I run it. Everything's got to be tightened. Got a new steering rack in. I think I may have mentioned I have to probably adjust the pitch, the yaw of the thing. Horns are in, radiator support's in. That's the old radiator off of one of the cars. Don't really remember which at this point. Probably the 66, maybe the 65, I don't know. But it's not in great shape. I'm going to try to put an aluminum one in here instead. I've also spent tonight sorting hardware. So the fact that the car is almost done and I still have not just that, all of that, all of that, all of that, and some stuff that's not sorted yet. Says I might have overbuilt. I mean, I know the car doesn't look like it's almost done, but it really kind of is. As far as things that need to be bolted together. The rear suspension's only going to take a few bolts to put on. The differential, I've got everything. I kind of set aside the bolts for everything ahead of time. So some of those I probably have to reuse, but that's fine. I may not have the right size, and I don't really like shortening stuff because it takes the plating off. The drive shaft is wrapped up in an old bath towel. I've still got to put U-joints in that. Like I said, the axles also. We got some of the e-brake system started. I've got all that stuff new, but I think most of the cable and the lever stuff all bolts to the body, so I can't do anything until I get the body back in the car. So yeah, that's pretty much the extent of things. This is one of the many bags of old hardware I took off between the two cars. So I've probably got 20-30 pounds of it. So I overbought, but not by as much as you might think. And again, this is part storage, so this is all the stuff for the chassis pretty much that I should need. So I've got U-joints, I've got clutch slave cylinder bracket. I'll probably clean that up again and maybe repaint it now that I have a sandblaster. Bolts for the U-joints. Just those are wheel bearings for the rear I bought and didn't use. I'm not wild about They're not as high quality as ones I got. So this is the rear trunnion. This is where the part that the suspension upright pivots on and kind of holds the weight of the car. These things were unbelievably rusted in place on the old cars, both of them. And a guy on one of the forums sells an upgraded kit that uses bronze oil light bushings and voodoo machine parts to replace those. So I'm waiting on those to get out of post office purgatory. Yeah. Oh, the engine. Yeah. We had a little bit of nice weather. It's down well below freezing right now. We had some nice weather last weekend. So I haven't really started disassembling the long block, but I've got it down to pretty much a long block. There's still, geez, there's still gunk on it. But I pulled all the freeze plugs, and one thing that's not a freeze plug that I pulled by mistake, which is actually the cam cover. You can see there's still quite a bit of rust in there, but I flushed out. I would bet a half pound of rust, just ballpark, from the color of the water. Probably still gonna, the goal is here, once I get the differential and the rear end assembled, is to pull the head off this thing, check what I can on the bottom end, check the head, maybe get the head machined. Ideally, maybe not touch the bottom, the short block. But if I do, we'll just see. It might need to be bored out and new pistons, or it might not. Ideally, it wouldn't. I can maybe run it as is if the pistons look really good, or if the rings are good and there's not too much carbon, or pull it apart, have it hot tanked, and rebuild it. Bore it out a little bit. Maybe I'd love to find a bigger, later model head for this, an intake manifold. One of the flaws on this, hey, look at the teeny tiny exhaust ports. Those are the square ports. But you can see there's only 2 intake ports, so they're twinned intake ports. One carb services 2 ports, which is fine, or 2 valves, but it uses 1 port. The 1300 engines, I think, had 4 intake valves, so ideally I would get one of those. Breathe a little bit better, maybe put a little bit hot cam in it. Kind of depends how finances go and how this is going. This engine ran. This is the one I fired up on video, geez, this spring, summer. So there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it, but it's kind of a shame not to. At the very least, I want to paint it and then put it back together with all new seals. Pretty much got all the seals out of it that there are. I don't have a timing system. I've just got a sprocket on there so I can turn it over by hand, but oh, that's nice. It's a little bit seized up now. There it is. Yeah. Sprayed everything with like WD-40, rust preventative, water displacing gunk, and I fog oiled inside the pistons, so through the spark plug holes. It's a HE block, which is high efficiency, so it should be higher compression than some options were, but maybe you can go a little bit higher. Definitely want hardened valve seats, so I don't have to run unleaded fuel. That's kind of the bare minimum that I'm going to do to this, is get the valve seats machined out and replaced, I think is how it goes. I don't know, maybe they press in. But yeah, it's an all iron block. Had to have a little bit of custom fabrication here. The engine stand is too wide to put the motor on. The plate is wider than the engine, so these are the arms that came with it. And then me and a buddy drilled some holes into this angle iron and took a few tries because I suck at measuring. But we bolted that to the engine, then bolted the plate to it, and then put the engine on to the stand. So that was an all-day, well, several hours of work. But yeah, I think it's a nice little engine. Hopefully, certainly could go with more horsepower, but we're not going to go crazy here, unless I happen across a 1500 block or 1300 block for nothing. I can always come back and rebuild it later with a bigger engine. So yeah, that's about it. Shop a mess, as always. So thanks for watching. Have a good new year. And yeah, you know what to 2020. Bye.